Well, here I am back in the pulpit again. I generally only do one service per year, but this year, since we needed to fill the pulpit with some guest ministers during Christian's absence, I thought I'd see if I could come up with something that might resonate with you and inspire you. Back in the ancient days of AM radio, Dick Clark sometimes used the promo tagline, and let me use my radio voice, "Radio, the soundtrack of your life," which in those pre-streaming, pre-on-demand music service days was quite literally true. Back a bit more than half a century ago, while I was attending Drexel University, I wandered into the college radio station, much like the way I wandered in here in 2015. I started doing odd jobs around the station, and then I started engineering for the top 40 disc jockeys. Those were the days of LP albums and 45s, so we had big studio quality turntables and big reel-to-reel tape decks. I'd cue up the individual music tracks for the DJs so they could focus on song introductions and making comments about the songs that they were playing. Over time, while I moved from scheduler to program manager to general manager, I started producing my own 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Thursday night folk song-oriented show. I used to call it the Beautiful People Show, since I always started and ended the show with Melanie's anthem to Woodstock, Beautiful People. It was a great time for that music. We enjoyed a steady stream of amazing music from the likes of Dylan, Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, Arlo Guthrie, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes Collins, pensive Simon and Garfunkel, sweet, cheery Peter, Paul, and Mary, Phil Oakes, Gordon Lightfoot, and of course, the venerable old folkie, Pete Seeger. Those folks were at the forefront of addressing so many of the social challenges that the country was facing at that time, including racial inequality, the Vietnam War, and voting rights. They were the authors of the soundtrack of a generation. In 1972, Harry Chapin produced his first breakout hit, Taxi. I started featuring the songs on his debut album, Heads and Tails, on my show. The more I listened, the more I realized Harry was so very special. Quite literally, the corpus of his work is the soundtrack of my life. His songs bubble under the surface of my consciousness. They are imprinted on my psyche. From 1972 until his tragic automobile accident death on the Long Island Expressway in 1981, I devoured a steady stream of his critically acclaimed annual album releases as my career pulled me through multiple stops in New York and Ohio. One of the best things about my stop in northern Ohio was that I was able to see Harry on a more or less regular basis each summer at an outdoor pavilion just north of Akron. His concerts were amazing. My bond with Harry is so strong that I can tell you I know exactly where I was on that hot July afternoon when I heard the news of his death. I have no hesitation in sharing with you that I had to pull over to the side of the road until I could have my tears subside. The lyrics of his songs are interwoven in my day-to-day conversation and writing. They inspire me, they comfort me, and they challenge me to be my best and kindest self. At Christmas time, I had to drive up to Cape Cod by myself to visit my daughter. The prospect of the length of the trip had left me a bit listless, so rather than listen to an audiobook to distract me, I chose the companionship of Harry's music. Harry's distinctive, emotionally evocative, rich, warm baritone voice with its slightly gravelly texture and conversational quality makes it easy for me to sing along as he breathed life into his complex, character-driven stories. So as the miles clicked by and I sang along with the full range of Harry's catalog of stories, and by the way, I sounded pretty good in the Durango, good harmonies there. It was like having a long, comforting conversation with an old friend while on a long journey. When I started to think about this sermon, I initially planned to focus on the song The Rock, which you heard earlier. But as I began to work on the sermon, it became clear to me that I needed to tell a bigger story. So in fine Chapin style, let me tell you a story about a man, his music, and why it's the soundtrack of my life. Harry was more than a musician. He was a master storyteller who captured the essence of human experience through character-driven narratives. Those relatable narratives continue to be relevant still decades after his tragic passing at age 38. His works form a tapestry of American life, threading together tales of fathers and sons, dreamers and doers, lovers and losers, all searching for meaning in the brief time that we have been given. Harry's live performances were legendary, marked by their warmth, humor, and intimate connection with his audience. He had a unique ability to make every listener feel as though they were part of the stories that he was telling. His concerts were not just musical events. They were communal experiences where stories and melodies intertwined to create something profoundly moving. Harry was a true humanitarian and philanthropist who unceasingly worked against hunger by establishing the World Hunger Year organization. His personal man of the touch made his performances unforgettable and fostered a sense of camaraderie amongst his fans. For those of us who grew up with his music, Harry's songs evoke a sense of nostalgia, transporting us back to pivotal moments in our lives. Perhaps, for example, as in his song Old College Avenue, in which a man recalls the bittersweet memories of a youthful, passionate love affair that he had back in his college days. And though time has passed, those memories and the emotions that he experienced still naggingly linger in his psyche as he wonders what could have been had he not let his lover's life slip out of his fingers. And for newer listeners, his collection of stories offers a window into the complexities of the human experience as they offer the listener a source of inspiration and insight. In the stories he told and the notes he played, he challenged us to explore the parallels between his songs and our lives, sometimes as a warning, but always as a call to action. His well-known and much-loved breakout narrative masterpiece, Taxi, tells the story of a chance reunion between a cab driver and his former lover. Through vivid imagery and heartfelt emotion, Harry explored the themes of unfulfilled dreams and the passage of time. These stories, though personal in nature, reflect experiences and emotions shared by many, allowing listeners to see their own lives mirrored in his music. One of his most common themes was time, that most precious of all commodities that slips through our fingers like sand. Many of Harry's narratives explore how time shapes our relationships. He shows us how easily we can become trapped in a cycle of later, postponing those vital connections with loved ones as we chase success or security. His stories warn us about the danger of assuming that there will always be another tomorrow to make things right. In one of his most poignant and best-known songs, Cats in the Cradle, a father repeatedly delays spending time with his son, always promising, "We'll get together then." The years pass swiftly and suddenly the roles reverse. It's now the grown son who's too busy for his aging father. This circular tragedy serves as a powerful reminder that time is not a renewable resource. When we prioritize our careers or other pursuits over relationships, we risk discovering, too late, that those missed moments can never be reclaimed. These aren't just songs, they are parables about the choices that shape our destinies and the destinies of those we love. Consider your own life soundtrack for a moment. What songs are playing in the background as your story unfolds? Are they melodies of connection and presence, or are they the hollow rhythms of postponed dreams and neglected relationships? Harry's work challenges us to examine the choices we make each day and their long-term impact on our lives and the lives of those we love. Another recurring theme in Harry's musical tapestry is the power of dreams and the price we pay for either pursuing them or letting them go. His characters often stand at a crossroad, weighing the safety of convention against the uncertain path of passion. Through their stories, we see reflections of our own struggles with identity and purpose. Are we living authentically, or have we allowed our dreams to wither in the name of practicality? Nowhere in his catalog of music does Harry weave together the themes of time, dreams, and the search for authenticity than in his last major work, the song Sequel. Sequel picks up the story of Harry and Sue from Taxi, now 10 years later. The two characters are in somewhat of a role reversal. Harry, who in Taxi is a down-on-his-luck cab driver, is now a successful entertainer. And Sue, the supposedly wealthy married actress, is now single, living alone, and working a regular job in quiet obscurity. The pivotal moment in the song is when Harry says, "So I asked her why she looked so happy. And she said, I finally like myself. At last, I like myself." In essence, Sue didn't need the fame or the footlights that she sought after in Taxi. She simply needed the grace to allow herself the grace and the courage to discard a counterfeit dream and embrace the joys of being her authentic self. At the end of the song, Harry sings, I guess it's the sequel to our story, from the journey between heaven and hell, with half the time thinking of what might have been, and half thinking, just as well. The beauty of Harry's storytelling lies in its unflinching honesty. He doesn't shy away from showing us the consequences of our choices, both good and bad. His characters aren't heroes or villains. They're complex human beings trying their best to navigate life's challenges just like us. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail. But their stories always carry valuable lessons about authenticity, of courage, and the importance of staying true to oneself. One of the most powerful themes in Harry's work is the concept of redemption and the possibility of change. His songs provoke us to take up the daunting challenge of asking ourselves, are we living lives of quiet desperation, simply going through the humdrum motions of an uninspired life, telling ourselves that someday we'll make the changes that we know we need to make? Answering that question demands deep introspection and great courage to accept the answer, and then to adapt our lives to live a fuller and a more rewarding life. Back in pre-COVID times, Greg Pelley and I would occasionally sit in his office and talk about sermons. One of the things that he said to me one time that has stuck with me in my mind for years is that when a minister offers a sermon, there's the sermon that's given, and then there's the sermon that's heard through the lens of the life of the listener. Sermons are at their core stories, so I don't find it much of a leap to say when you listen to one of Harry's songs, there's the story that's contained in the lyrics, and then there's the unique message taken away by the listener. Earlier you watched the video for the song The Rock. I want to take a moment and dwell on that song and try to show you, while its melody and story appear simple, through the lens of our unique lives, the songs can hold a message and a lesson for each of us. I told you that there would be a test. Through the lens of your life, did the song make you think about the challenges of the personal responsibilities in your life? Perhaps there's a relationship or a commitment in your life that you've neglected. Relationships like the rock don't collapse all at once. They erode slowly over time until one day the damage feels irreversible. We must learn to act before that damage becomes irreparable. How often do we avoid the hard work of addressing the rocks in our personal lives because it feels overwhelming? Yet, by ignoring them, we leave ourselves vulnerable to greater pain down the road. Through the lens of your life, did the song make you think about the challenges of being part of the many different communities in which our lives are intertwined in? Think about the issues that threaten our communities and our world. Poverty, injustice, climate change, and inequality. These are the rocks that loom over us. Like the villagers, we sometimes pretend that they're not there, or believe someone else will deal with them. But the truth is, we all have a role to play, The rock in the song wasn't just one person's responsibility. It belonged to the entire village. In our lives, we must remember that we are stronger together, whether it's addressing a community issue, supporting a loved one, tackling a national or global crisis. We are not alone. There is power in unity and caring, and when we join forces, we can achieve the seemingly impossible. Through the lens of your life, did the song make you think about our need to overcome our fears? There's another layer to this story, one that speaks to the human tendency to avoid what we fear. An emotion that's running rampant in our lives, in our world today. Some of the villagers in the song didn't address the rock because they were afraid. What if they failed? What if trying to move the rock only made things worse? Fear kept them from acting, and in the end, their inaction sealed their fate. We too are often paralyzed by fear. We fear failure. We feel rejection or the enormity of the task before us. We tell ourselves we're not strong enough. We're not skilled enough. We're not brave enough to tackle the challenges that we face. But the lesson of the rock is clear. Fear cannot be an excuse for inaction. It's okay to feel afraid. Fear is natural. But we must not let it stop us from doing what is necessary. Acting despite feeling fearful is the definition of courage. And courage is what is required to face the rocks in our lives in today's world. And finally, through the lens of your life, did the song make you think about how unfair it was for the people to blame and demonize the rock? After the incident, the rock brought a federal civil suit against the villagers for defamation and emotional and physical stress. In the complaint, the rock said that it was clearly acting in accordance to the laws of nature, including gravity and geological protocols. Any damage to the village was not the fault of the rock. Instead, it was the fault of the village for placing the village on the rock's natural path and right of way. The complaint went on to say that the damage to the environment by the villagers had resulted in more severe storms, which had hastened the erosion around the rock's foundation, which was one of the root causes of the incident. While seemingly humorous, how often do people defy nature and build their homes within feet of the ocean and then complain about flooding when a hurricane happens? There is none so blind as he who will not see. Ultimately, the story of the rock is a call to live with purpose. It reminds us that we have a choice in how we respond to the challenges before us. We can ignore them, hoping they'll go away, or we can face them head on, knowing that our actions have the power to shape the future. Harry's song challenges us to think about our legacy. What will we leave behind? Will we be like the villagers, ignoring the rock until it is too late? Or will we take responsibility for our lives and our world, doing what we can to make a difference? The power of Harry's musical legacy not lies in the stories that he told, but in how those stories prompt us to examine our own lives. His characters serve as mirrors, reflecting back to us the consequences of our choices, the potential that change that exists in every moment. So to wrap up, as we leave here today, let me suggest we carry with us this understanding. The soundtrack of our lives is still being written and scored. Each day brings with it new opportunities to choose presence over absence, authenticity over conformity, action over apathy. We can't change the songs that have already been played and sung, but we can influence the ones yet to come. Let us commit to being more present in our relationships, more courageous in pursuing our dreams, and more generous in our contribution to the world. Let us remember that our time here is finite, but our impact can be eternal. The music of your life is playing. How will you dance to it?